The film which you are about to see is a true account of how a drug smuggler lost close to 80 pounds of cocaine and the black bear that found and ate it. The movie Cocaine Bear is a thriller/dark comedy about a 500-pound black bear that goes on a murderous rampage after ingesting a large amount of cocaine. Well, these are the true events. Originally from Lexington, Kentucky, 41-year-old Andrew Thornton Jr. grew up in relative wealth as he attended private schools and polo clubs as a child and teenager. He would later go on to attend the University of Kentucky for about a semester before dropping out to join the Army, where he would go on to become a paratrooper stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He would only do this for a few years though, and once he was out, he would begin working with the Lexington Police Department in Kentucky, where after taking his night classes to get his degree, he would become a member of the department's narcotics division. This, unfortunately, would be when Andrew would first dabble in drug smuggling to earn himself some extra money. He would only do this for a short time though, as he resigned from the police department in 1977. Only 4 short years later, in Fresno, California, he would be among 25 men accused in theft of weapons from the China Lake Weapons Center located in Southern California, and conspiring to smuggle 1,000 pounds of marijuana into the United States. He then quickly left the state after pleading not guilty, but was quickly arrested in North Carolina shortly after. After he was then brought back to Fresno, he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor drug charge, and luckily for him, all his felony charges were then dropped. He was then sentenced to 6 months in prison, fined $500, placed on probation for 5 years, and had his law license suspended. It was most likely this light punishment that led Andrew wanting to smuggle more drugs into the US, which unfortunately for him, brings us back to our story. On the fateful day of September 11th, 1985, around 11:30 p.m., Andrew was making an important cocaine drop from Colombia, South America to Kentucky with one of his partners on a Cessna 404 Titan, which was the type of airplane that they were making the drop in. The men first made a drop in Blairsville, Georgia before departing for their headquarters in central Kentucky. Unfortunately for the men though, only minutes after departure, the plane was apparently being followed after they intercepted a radio transmission stating that someone was going to trail an incoming Cessna. Then, knowing that their plane was the only Cessna in the area, Andrew proceeded to put the plane in autopilot and decided to make a hasty decision to drop the payload of a little under 80 pounds of cocaine that was being transferred in multiple plastic containers. Andrew then made the drop in the Chattahoochee Forest in Georgia's northern wilderness in the hopes that he would be able to come back and find the containers at a safer time. Then, as the plane was left on autopilot and on a collision course with North Carolina, the two men decided to bail out and take advantage of their parachutes before it was too late. They then both jumped out as they were flying over Knoxville, Tennessee. Unbeknownst to Andrew though, he would end up never seeing that 80 pounds of cocaine ever again. The next morning, a man by the name of Fred Myers had just woken up and was in the middle of shaving his face when suddenly he noticed something out of the corner of his eyes. It was the silhouette of a man laid out on his driveway. And of course, it was our friend Andrew Thornton. When they found our friend, he was wearing a bulletproof vest, Gucci loafers, and night vision goggles. He also had a green duffel bag containing another 75 pounds of cocaine valued at about $15 million. 31 grams of gold, a knife, and 2 pistols. To say the least, this would be the end of our friend, but not the end of our story. 3 months later, on December 23rd, an unnamed man was hunting in the Chattahoochee National Park. He was walking along when suddenly he came across a large black figure laying on the ground. Thinking that it was a large black bear foraging for food and knowing that scaring a black bear could usually result in a horrible mauling, he decided to back away slowly and hide behind a tree until it was safe to come back around. Though as he was waiting, something felt off, and as he peeked back around, he noticed that the bear was actually dead, and not only that, but it was also next to multiple empty containers. The man then reported the bear to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and went on by his way. Then when the chief medical examiner from the Georgia State Crime Lab, Dr. Kenneth Alonzo, performed a necropsy on the animal, he reported stating that the bear had eaten almost 80 pounds of cocaine. As he stated, when he cut open the bear's stomach, it was literally packed to the brim with cocaine. And unfortunately for the bear, in its final hours, it would most likely end up suffering the worst fate that any bear has ever suffered. As in the course of only a few hours, the bear would end up suffering a cerebral hemorrhage, respiratory failure, hypothermia, renal failure, a heart attack, and a stroke. The bear was later stuffed and gifted to the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, where it was later on display into about the early 1990s, where the staff would then later have to put it away into storage for its own safety. Unfortunately though, it would later be stolen and sold to a pawn shop, where later musician Waylon Jennings would buy it and give it to a friend who put it on display in his mansion in Las Vegas, until his death in 2009, where it was auctioned off to a man named Zhu Tang for about $200. Where he would later put it on display at his traditional Chinese medicine shop until years later after his death. Members of the Kentucky for Kentucky came by his shop and bargained with his wife for it, for they thought it should come back to Kentucky for a part of the state's history. Today, Cocaine Bear could be found in the Kentucky for Kentucky Fun Mall as one of the main attractions. And in February of 2023, will be made into a gruesome thriller of what could have happened if the bear had only ingested a small amount instead of the insane almost 80 pounds that was found in its stomach. And once again, thank you for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on the notification bell for more content in the future. Goodbye for now.